The tension between 50 Cent and T.I. had been building for weeks, but nobody expected it to explode the way it did that night. Rumors had already been spreading across social media that King Harris, the outspoken son of T.I., had been mocking 50 Cent during a livestream. Fans clipped the video and reposted it everywhere, and within hours the internet was buzzing with speculation that a serious confrontation was coming. For 50 Cent, someone known for never letting disrespect slide, the situation was starting to look like a direct challenge not just to his name, but to his reputation. And when King Harris continued to talk about 50 Cent in interviews and posts, the pressure between the two camps began to rise quickly. 50 Cent reportedly first heard about the comments while he was in the studio working late. According to people close to him, someone from his team pulled up the clips on a phone and showed him exactly what King Harris had been saying. In the videos, King Harris laughed about 50 Cent and suggested that the rap legend was trying to stay relevant by dragging younger names into drama. Witnesses say the room went quiet as 50 Cent watched the clips again and again. Those who know 50 Cent say he has always been strategic about conflict, but when family members start entering the conversation, things can become unpredictable. That was exactly what was happening now because King Harris wasn't just a random rapper online. He was the son of T.I., and that made the situation far more personal. Meanwhile, T.I. was reportedly aware of the growing tension, but believed things would stay limited to online arguments. T.I. had dealt with rap beefs before, and he assumed this would just be another round of social media shots between artists. But according to insiders, King Harris wasn't interested in keeping things quiet. King Harris continued posting videos and comments that mentioned 50 Cent directly, sometimes mocking his past rivalries and sometimes accusing him of targeting the Harris family for attention. The more King Harris spoke, the more fans started tagging 50 Cent in the clips, urging him to respond. Eventually, 50 Cent broke his silence. Late one night, he posted a cryptic message that didn't mention names but clearly hinted at the situation. Fans immediately believed he was talking about King Harris and T.I. because the message warned that some people keep talking until reality shows up at their door. The post quickly went viral, and thousands of comments flooded in. Supporters of 50 Cent praised him for standing his ground, while supporters of T.I. defended the Harris family. In the middle of the chaos, King Harris responded with another live stream where he laughed off the warning and told viewers that nobody could intimidate him. As the online drama escalated, mutual friends reportedly tried to calm the situation. Several industry figures allegedly reached out to both sides, telling them that things were getting too heated. But by that point, the narrative had already taken on a life of its own. Blogs, fan pages, and reaction channels were discussing the feud nonstop. Every small post or comment was being analyzed, and speculation grew that a real confrontation might happen if the two sides ever crossed paths. That moment reportedly came sooner than anyone expected. According to witnesses, both camps ended up attending the same private gathering hosted by a music executive. The event was supposed to be a quiet celebration with artists, producers, and close friends. But when word spread that both 50 Cent and members of the Harris family were inside the same building, the mood quickly changed. People who were there later described the atmosphere as tense, with many guests watching carefully to see if anything would happen. At first, things seemed calm. 50 Cent reportedly arrived with his team and kept mostly to himself, speaking with a few people near the bar area. Not long after, King Harris entered with several friends, and according to multiple sources, he appeared confident and unbothered by the situation. Some guests say King Harris even made jokes about the online drama while greeting people at the party. But as the night went on, the distance between the two groups began to shrink. Witnesses claimed the first direct interaction happened when King Harris walked past the area where 50 Cent was standing. Exactly what was said in that moment remains unclear, but several people at the event insist that words were exchanged. Some say King Harris made a sarcastic remark referencing the earlier posts, while others believe someone from 50 Cent's crew responded first. Whatever the truth is, those few seconds reportedly changed the entire mood of the room. Suddenly voices grew louder. Guests nearby began stepping away as the argument escalated. Several people later said that T.I. tried to step between the two sides once he realized the situation was getting serious. T.I. reportedly told King Harris to relax and reminded him that the event wasn't the place for a fight. but emotions were already running high. The combination of online insults, public pressure, and pride had created a situation that was difficult to control. According to multiple accounts, the argument quickly turned physical. What started as shouting reportedly turned into pushing, and within seconds chaos erupted. Security guards rushed toward the scene as people scattered across the room. Witnesses say the confrontation moved rapidly, with several individuals trying to pull the two sides apart. In the middle of the confusion, King Harris allegedly became involved in a direct struggle that left several people shocked by how intense things had become. Reports claimed that during the chaos, King Harris suffered a serious injury that caused immediate concern among those present. Some witnesses said they saw King Harris suddenly collapse, while others shouted for help. The exact cause of the injury became a topic of debate almost instantly. Some people believed it happened during the physical confrontation, while others speculated that something else may have occurred in the confusion. What everyone agreed on was that the situation had suddenly become far more serious than a typical celebrity argument. Security quickly cleared the area while emergency services were called. Guests were asked to step outside as paramedics rushed into the building. Several people recorded parts of the aftermath on their phones, and within minutes rumors began spreading online that King Harris had been injured during a fight involving 50 Cent. Social media exploded with speculation as posts began claiming that King Harris was being rushed to the hospital. By the time the ambulance left the scene, the story had already started trending across multiple platforms. Fans argued about who was responsible and what exactly had happened inside the party. Some blamed 50 Cent, others blamed King Harris, and many people demanded answers from T.I. himself. Meanwhile, sources close to the family reportedly confirmed that King Harris had been taken to the ICU for urgent medical treatment. As news of the injury spread, the pressure on everyone involved increased dramatically. Journalists began contacting representatives for 50 Cent and T.I., asking for statements. Fans waited anxiously for updates while rumors continued to circulate. Inside the hospital, doctors were reportedly working quickly to assess King Harris's condition, and those closest to him were said to be extremely worried. For 50 Cent, the situation was suddenly far bigger than an online feud. What had started as insults on social media had now turned into a real-world incident with serious consequences. And with King Harris fighting through a painful injury and the entire industry watching closely, the question on everyone's mind was the same. How far would this conflict between 50 Cent, T.I., and King Harris go next? The moment the ambulance carrying King Harris sped away from the venue, the entire atmosphere outside the building changed. What had started as a private gathering for music insiders had suddenly turned into the center of a growing controversy. Guests who had rushed outside were now standing in small groups, whispering about what they had just witnessed. Some were still in shock, replaying the chaotic moments in their minds. Others had already begun posting cryptic messages online, hinting that something serious had happened between 50 Cent and the Harris family. Inside the ambulance, paramedics worked quickly to stabilize King Harris. Witnesses said he appeared to be in severe pain, barely able to speak, while medical staff tried to control the situation. One paramedic reportedly told others that the injury looked serious and required immediate attention at the hospital. That statement alone was enough to create panic among the people who had followed the ambulance outside the building. Within minutes, rumors began spreading that King Harris's condition might be worse than anyone initially believed. Back at the party location, security teams moved quickly to lock down the area where the confrontation had happened. Several staff members began escorting guests away from the main hall, trying to prevent further chaos. Meanwhile, a few individuals who had been closest to the altercation were quietly questioned about what they had seen. According to some witnesses, the confrontation had escalated so quickly that many people were unsure who had thrown the first move. All they knew was that the argument between 50 Cent and King Harris had turned explosive in seconds. T.I. reportedly looked furious and worried at the same time. People close to him later claimed that he immediately tried calling the hospital for updates about his son. For T.I., the situation had gone far beyond a rap beef or online drama. His son was now in an ambulance heading toward intensive medical care, and the uncertainty about his condition was weighing heavily on everyone around him. Several friends attempted to calm T.I. down, but witnesses say the rapper was visibly shaken. Meanwhile, 50 Cent remained surrounded by members of his team near the exit of the building. Some people claimed he looked calm but serious, while others said he appeared frustrated by how quickly the situation had spiraled out of control. Those who know 50 Cent say he is used to controversy, but even for someone with his history of rivalries, this moment was different. A fight turning into a medical emergency was something that no one had planned for. Outside the venue, more vehicles began arriving as word spread through the industry. Some artists and managers who had heard rumors rushed to the location to find out what was happening. At the same time, several bloggers and independent reporters started appearing nearby, hoping to capture footage or statements from anyone involved. The story was beginning to move fast, and people could sense that the incident might become one of the biggest headlines in hip-hop that week. While the chaos continued outside the party, the scene at the hospital was becoming increasingly tense. Doctors immediately moved King Harris into a treatment room, while nurses ran tests to understand the severity of his injuries. According to early reports circulating among insiders, the injury involved a very sensitive area of his body, which made the situation even more alarming. Medical staff reportedly decided that he needed to be placed under close observation in the ICU to prevent further complications. Family members soon began arriving at the hospital after receiving frantic phone calls about the incident. The Harris family was reportedly shocked when they heard that King Harris had been injured during a confrontation linked to 50 Cent. Some relatives were said to be furious, demanding to know exactly what had happened inside the party. Others were more focused on the medical updates, waiting anxiously in the hospital corridors as doctors continued their work. Back at the party venue, the situation grew even more complicated when local authorities were informed about the altercation. A few witnesses had already contacted police, reporting that a fight had broken out during the event. When officers arrived to gather information, several guests were still standing outside discussing the incident. Some individuals spoke openly about seeing King Harris collapse during the confrontation, while others insisted they had only heard shouting before security pushed everyone away. At the same time, social media was exploding with speculation. Clips from earlier live streams featuring King Harris criticizing 50 Cent began circulating again, with fans debating whether those comments had contributed to the confrontation. Supporters of 50 Cent argued that King Harris had been provoking the rapper for days, while supporters of the Harris family claimed the situation should never have turned violent. In the middle of the online storm, several people who claimed to have been inside the building began posting anonymous accounts of the fight. Some described seeing King Harris step toward 50 Cent in anger. Others claimed members of both entourages had gotten involved almost immediately, creating a chaotic scene where punches and shoves happened too quickly to track. The conflicting stories only made the mystery deeper, leaving fans unsure about what truly happened. Meanwhile, T.I. finally received a call from someone at the hospital with an early update about his son. Witnesses say the moment he heard that King Harris had been placed in the ICU, his expression changed completely. The reality of the situation was hitting him hard. A conflict that began with social media insults had now turned into a medical crisis affecting his own family. As news of the ICU admission spread online, the story reached an even larger audience. Major hip-hop pages began posting breaking updates, and thousands of fans flooded the comment sections with reactions. Some demanded accountability from 50 Cent, while others warned people not to jump to conclusions until the full story was confirmed. For 50 Cent, the pressure was building rapidly. Journalists were already trying to reach his team for a response, and rumors suggested that authorities might want to question everyone who had been present during the confrontation. Even though the exact details were still unclear, one thing was certain. The feud between 50 Cent, T.I., and King Harris had now crossed a dangerous line. As the night continued, people across the music industry waited for the next update from the hospital. The question hanging in the air was simple but frightening. Would King Harris recover quickly, or had this violent confrontation created consequences that could change the lives of everyone involved? The hours following the incident felt painfully slow for everyone connected to King Harris. Inside the hospital, the atmosphere was tense as doctors continued monitoring his condition in the ICU. Nurses moved quickly between rooms while medical equipment hummed quietly in the background. Family members sat in the waiting area, anxiously watching every doctor who stepped through the hallway doors. No one knew exactly how serious the injury might become, and the uncertainty was creating a heavy silence among those closest to him. T.I. had arrived at the hospital not long after receiving the first alarming call. Witnesses say the rapper looked exhausted and deeply worried as he walked through the entrance, surrounded by a few trusted friends. For a man who had faced many controversies throughout his career, this moment was different. This was not about music, reputation, or business deals. His son was lying in intensive care, and the reality of that situation weighed heavily on him. Doctors eventually allowed T.I. to briefly see King Harris through the ICU window. According to people familiar with the moment, King Harris was conscious but clearly in pain, surrounded by machines that were monitoring his vital signs. Medical staff explained that the injury required careful observation and that they needed time to determine whether surgery or additional treatment might be necessary. Hearing that information reportedly made T.I. even more tense, because the situation was clearly more serious than a minor injury. Meanwhile, outside the hospital, reporters had begun gathering in large numbers. News of the confrontation involving 50 Cent had already spread across social media platforms, and entertainment outlets were racing to confirm the details. Cameras pointed toward the hospital entrance as journalists waited for any member of the Harris family to speak publicly. But for the moment, the family remained focused on King Harris's condition rather than the growing media storm outside. At the same time, back in the city where the party had taken place, investigators were beginning to piece together what had actually happened during the chaotic confrontation. Several witnesses were contacted to provide statements about the argument between 50 Cent and King Harris. Some described a heated exchange of insults that quickly escalated into pushing and grabbing. Others insisted that members of both entourages had stepped in almost immediately, turning the argument into a confusing struggle involving several people at once. Because the incident had led to a medical emergency, authorities were treating the situation seriously. Security footage from inside the building was reportedly being reviewed to understand the exact sequence of events. Investigators wanted to determine who had started the physical confrontation and whether any actions during the fight directly caused the injury that sent King Harris to the ICU. While officials worked on gathering information, the internet continued exploding with speculation. Fans of 50 Cent and supporters of the Harris family argued nonstop across comment sections and livestream discussions. Some people claimed that King Harris had been too aggressive during the argument. Others insisted that 50 Cent's reputation for intense rivalries meant he should have handled the situation differently. A few bloggers even began analyzing earlier videos of King Harris talking about 50 Cent online. In those clips, King Harris had spoken confidently and sometimes mockingly about the rap legend. Many viewers now looked back at those videos as possible fuel that had ignited the confrontation. But others argued that online trash talk was common in the music world and should never have led to real violence. Inside his own camp, 50 Cent was reportedly dealing with a complicated mix of reactions. According to people close to him, he had been informed that King Harris was hospitalized shortly after the fight ended. Some members of his team were concerned about how the situation could affect his reputation and business ventures. Others believed the story would continue evolving as more details emerged from witnesses and security footage. Despite the growing controversy, 50 Cent himself had not yet made any official public statement. That silence only added to the tension online. Fans constantly refreshed their social media feeds, expecting him to address the situation at any moment. For someone known for speaking boldly during conflicts, the lack of immediate comment made many people wonder what he was thinking behind the scenes. Back at the hospital, another update finally came from doctors treating King Harris. Medical staff informed the family that his condition was stable but still required close monitoring. The injury had caused serious pain and complications that doctors wanted to observe carefully before deciding the next step. Hearing that he was stable brought a small wave of relief to T.I. and other family members waiting nearby. However, relief quickly mixed with frustration. Several relatives were reportedly angry about how the confrontation had unfolded. They wanted answers about who had been responsible for letting the situation escalate. For them, the fact that King Harris was lying in an ICU bed made the entire feud feel far more personal and serious than a typical celebrity dispute. Meanwhile, T.I. found himself caught between two emotional storms. On one side, He was a father worried about his injured son. On the other side, he was a major figure in the music industry who knew the story was spreading worldwide. Friends close to him say he was trying to stay calm while waiting for clearer information about both the medical situation and the investigation into the fight. As morning approached, the story had become one of the biggest trending topics in hip-hop media. Headlines mentioned the conflict between 50 Cent, T.I., and King Harris everywhere online. Fans debated every rumor and every leaked detail, trying to figure out exactly what had happened inside that private party. Yet despite all the speculation, the full truth of the confrontation remained unclear. Security footage had not been released, witness accounts were inconsistent, and both sides were still silent publicly. The only confirmed fact was that King Harris had been injured badly enough to require ICU treatment, and that the conflict involving 50 Cent had now reached a level that could carry serious consequences. As the sun rose the next morning, one question continued echoing through the industry. When the truth about the fight finally came out, would it expose a simple misunderstanding that spiraled out of control, or would it reveal a deeper feud that had been building for far longer than anyone realized? Morning brought no peace to the situation. As the sun rose, the entire hip-hop world was still talking about the shocking confrontation involving 50 Cent, T.I., and King Harris. News outlets, blogs, and social media pages continued pushing updates every few minutes, each one claiming to reveal a new detail about the chaotic night. Fans who had gone to sleep hoping the drama would calm down woke up to find the story even bigger than before. Outside the hospital where King Harris was being treated, reporters had formed a large crowd near the entrance. Camera crews waited patiently for any member of the Harris family to step outside and speak. Some journalists had been there all night, hoping to capture the first statement from T.I. about his son's condition. But the doors remained closed, and security guards made sure no one without permission could get close to the ICU area. Inside the hospital, the Harris family was still dealing with a mix of fear and frustration. Doctors had continued monitoring King Harris overnight, running tests to make sure his injury did not become more serious. Medical staff told the family that the next 24 hours would be extremely important. Although King Harris was stable, the sensitive nature of the injury meant doctors wanted to observe every change carefully before making final decisions about treatment. For T.I., the waiting felt unbearable. Friends who stayed with him at the hospital later said he spent long periods walking through the hallway, speaking quietly on the phone with close relatives and trusted associates. Every conversation eventually came back to the same question. How had a heated argument turned into a situation where his son ended up in intensive care? At the same time, investigators were continuing their work on the confrontation that had happened at the party. Authorities were reviewing security footage from several cameras inside the building. According to early reports circulating among insiders, the footage showed the moment when the argument between 50 Cent and King Harris escalated into physical chaos. Several people could be seen rushing toward the confrontation as voices grew louder and the crowd started backing away. Witness statements were also being examined carefully. Some guests claimed King Harris had approached 50 Cent in an aggressive way during the argument. Others insisted that members of both entourages had started pushing each other almost immediately, turning the confrontation into a messy struggle involving multiple people. Because of these conflicting stories, investigators were trying to reconstruct the exact sequence of events second by second. Meanwhile, the silence from 50 Cent's side was beginning to attract even more attention. Fans were constantly refreshing his social media pages, expecting a response from someone known for addressing controversies directly. But hours passed without any official comment. Some supporters believed he was waiting for legal advice before speaking publicly. Others thought he might be preparing a statement that would explain his side of the story. Behind the scenes, people close to 50 Cent reportedly understood that the situation had become extremely serious. What had started as online trash talk had now turned into a public incident involving injuries, police attention, and intense media coverage. Several advisors were said to be urging him to stay calm and avoid escalating the conflict further until the full facts were known. Back at the hospital, another small update finally arrived from the doctors treating King Harris. Medical staff informed the family that his condition had shown slight improvement during the night. While he was still experiencing pain, the The test suggested that the injury was stabilizing. Hearing this news reportedly brought visible relief to T.I. and other relatives who had been waiting anxiously. However, even with that improvement, doctors warned that recovery would still take time. They explained that King Harris would likely need extended observation and careful medical treatment before leaving the ICU. The family understood that the physical healing process might take weeks, and the emotional impact of the incident could last even longer. Outside the hospital, rumors continued spreading rapidly online. Some posts claimed the fight had been far more violent than early reports suggested. Others argued that the situation had been exaggerated by bloggers chasing attention. Without official statements from either side, the public debate kept growing louder with every passing hour. Within the music industry, many artists and producers began discussing the situation privately. Some expressed concern about how quickly celebrity conflicts could spiral into real-world danger. Others worried that the feud between 50 Cent and the Harris family might escalate even further once everyone involved started speaking publicly about what had happened. T.I. himself reportedly understood that the story would not disappear quickly. Friends close to him said he was determined to focus first on his son's recovery before addressing the media. But everyone knew that eventually he would have to speak about the confrontation and respond to the growing speculation surrounding the fight. Meanwhile, investigators continued studying the footage and witness accounts, trying to determine whether any legal consequences might follow. If authorities can, leaving the music industry wondering what the next chapter of this dramatic story would reveal. If you want to stay updated on every twist in the ongoing drama between 50 Cent, T.I., and King Harris, make sure you don't miss what comes next. This situation is still developing, and new details about the confrontation, the investigation, and King Harris's recovery could surface at any moment. Stories like this remind us how quickly tensions in the music world can escalate, and how the consequences can affect not just careers, but entire families. So if you want the full breakdown, the latest updates, and deeper insights into what's really happening behind the scenes, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Also drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this situation could have been avoided, or was this clash between 50 Cent and the Harris family inevitable after all the online tension? Stay tuned, because as more information comes out about 50 Cent, T.I., and King Harris, this story might take an even more surprising turn.